Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, these guys. We are here today. We are talking about domestic violence. Before I begin and introduce our guests, I will get a shout out to our absent pastor, um, Pastor White, for even having us on his show and even for staying in. Good evening, Sister George. Y'all know it's Destiny Runners. It's important for us to tie into a ministry. Our pastor's on a vacation. He does Destiny Runners on devotionals every morning. He does a morning prayer devotion. He do Wednesday Word, which we always do a deeper dive. We do Bible study on Thursdays. And he also answers thousands of emails from all over the country, including Africa and other countries. And we also have him for Sunday worship. And I said to say this, with all those many hats he wears, that we know that we should be able to tie into the ministry because it is a growing ministry. So I'm not begging you for tithing, but it's a way of God's word to tie into the ministry. So this morning, guys, I'm in California, so it's 9 a.m. here. So this afternoon, where you guys are, we want to just give a shout out to our pastor. It's also Pastor Appreciation Month, and we love what he's doing. He keeps us focused and grounded and rooted in the word. So, tithing is something that we should do, but consider tithing into the ministry. As we begin today on domestic violence, we got to bring everybody up to par. That's a destiny awareness, and we're gonna have a table talk today because we all went through. A lot of us have gone through the storm, and a lot of us don't know our story. In order to strengthen people, we have to share our story and be transparent with what we're going through. So my guest today, we're going to start with Phyliss Peterson.
Hi, I'm Phyliss, and I suffer from domestic violence on a different level, losing a son.
Okay, and then we got Cyndi Williams. Could hear you.
Your mic.
Yes. We're going to get back with Cyndi. Phyliss, why don't you take a few minutes and tell us a part of your story of why you aren't here doing the domestic violence?
Okay. Well, most of the time when we think about domestic violence, we think about it coming from a partner or seeing a mother and father fight in your years of growing up. My story is not different. I'm just bringing it a different reign to domestic violence. My son was killed due to domestic violence. He was robbed and murdered. And my grandson was left in the car nearby, and he witnessed it. So on the end of a parent, with that domestic violence and the loss of a child, to not downplay any, because a loss is a loss, but it's in a different realm to have to bury a child, and in such a brutal way, black on black crime, and I think that my perspective is the God in me, as my best friend says, because I was angry with God. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't understand, but the God in me, I have a heart now. And I pray for the person that did this. We recently had a trial, and he was convicted. He received life +5 without the possibility of parole. But I'm not jumping up and down with that, because that's another life that's lost. That's another life that's lost. That's another life that was in the system, which the system could have prevented because he was a repeat offender. And I don't mean years of repeat offenders. I mean weeks. Back to back, back to back. They were releasing him, Fulton County. They released him on a bond and another bond and another bond on aggravated charges with domestic violence, kidnapping. He had held a young lady hostage with a gun by a convicted felon, and they still released him, and he got out on bond.
Wow.
And in less than 24 hours, he killed my son. He robbed and killed my son. And he was truly an innocent person. So, like many mothers, especially here in this city, Metro Atlanta, the fight is hard. Um, I've never done drugs. I've never, thank God, I've had a circle around me, and where we come from, Cyndi, we didn't, we just had a strong, powerful, prayer circle. We did little things, but nothing, we just had strong people. And in those days of calling, those very foundations of where I come from, they came right back to me to feel that circle. Stan, Bishop White, Carla Scott, and a number of other people that we went to school with. My foundation, they lifted me. They lifted me up because I was on the edge of committing suicide or killing someone. The system didn't care, and we still have to live with that. That domestic violence. I still, even to this day, and the trial was only a month ago, I have the pictures that I saw in the trial and how my baby was laying out there. I don't want no mother or family have to go through that. So I understand the mental health aspect of it. I understand that how people can get on drugs. We can never judge because we don't know what they've been through or gone through. Only by the grace of God, I'm still standing, but hurt people. And as they did the closing argument, I wanted him to say something, just to give me a little something, just to give me a little something, to love on him. So his attorney in turn said, his mom had left him at a young age. It was a gang member, a very powerful gang here in the Metro Atlanta that he's connected with. And that was really how he kept getting out of jail. But he had no remorse, at least to the eyes where I could see, where he could just give me a little bit. And my first thought was, he's broken. He's a broken young man and he's hurting. And he reached out to the thing that called love, and that was a gang. That gang was easily to manipulate him, and to think one way. He didn't have a bit of remorse towards the camera, as far as I can see, as far as the camera and sentencing. He didn't have any remorse. And somewhere in his head, he's been conditioned to think that I did what I had to do. And when I tell you they came in court strong, defending this, even making up lies, even having me confused. Like, wait a minute. Wait, now I know Brad didn't come from this, but is it a tad bit think that he might have gotten connected because he was in the industry? No. So my point into saying this, domestic violence come in all different angles.
Right.
In all different angles. And we need to recognize those things. We need to recognize those things before the streets get them, before the system get them, because they don't care anything about us. And especially the black on black crime. They could have held him in jail and he could have been doing 5 to 10 on the charges that he was in there for. And instead, they repeatedly gave him a bond. From the months of October through January, he was repeatedly in and out of Fulton County on aggravated charges, domestic violent charges. And they was giving him bonds and he was getting out. And this last go round, he killed my son. I became a victim. My family became a victim. So we have to look at the signs. We have to come together as a community and take our families back. We got to take our black families back. We got to go back to where Cyndi, you and I came from. If you get into it, you best believe by the time you hit your house, you already got 2 fussinets, if not a popping, and you're going to really get it when you get home. That's right. Love. That's love. And I'm an only child. I can appreciate that. Okay. I can remember going to, Cyndi, I don't know if you remember, Miss McGee's plum tree over on Ames Street, where my street over from my grandmother's. Me and my cousin, Freddie Cohen, we was going to slip and get some plums. We was gonna get some plums, and we got a little shirt full, you know. And lo and behold, you know, they were educators. They didn't say nothing, but y'all go home. Miss Mignon, I gonna get y'all. By the time I got home, trust and believe, she was waiting at that door.
Right.
Yeah.
That was back
So
then. So
that was back then. And I'm
then, right.
saying that foundation, had we just, if we can just get that back, because they meant us no harm. They meant us no harm. It was love. That type of good, tough love. I might not be sitting here today
Right.
talking about this. Had
And what
somebody
you
grabbed him and stood in the midst of all of this, in the gap, hey, your mama left you, but whatever problem she got going on, I'm gonna be right here, and you can't do it, and I'm gonna love on you.
so what
So
you're saying, Phyllis, is bring back that village that
we
protected the
gotta bang back
children.
that billing, and we gotta, you know, I'm a mother that fights for my children's rights too. When they've done wrong, I'm not gonna uphold you. Even my friends, I'm gonna be your sister's keeper, but I'm not gonna uphold you in your wrongdoing without
Okay.
taking accountability. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
We understand your story. We here. We get ready to go through the program. So Miss Cindy Williams, introducing her. How you want to go? What was your darkest moment in your life?
Uh, Hi. I'm sorry, my mute was muted earlier. Um, but my darkest moment is being that I loved and thought loved even more.
You're breaking up,
Um,
Cindy.
and- can you hear me?
I can
Can
hear
you hear
you.
me now?
Speak up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my abuse came from somebody who I thought loved me just as much as I loved them. And I don't know exactly where the abuse started or how it started, but it started. Um, but it, when you're in love with somebody and just love, deep love, sometimes it's just hard to walk away, even though, I never told anybody about what I was going through or anything. I just went through it. My children saw it, but they wasn't old enough to say anything to anybody about it. Um, but just going through the motion and not having anybody to actually turn to talk to because you don't want anybody. You're feeling ashamed, and then you don't want anybody. This um, that's just how our mind thought is, and until it got really really serious, and as I had to leave, go to other states or counties to get medical help. And once I began to pray, and I was like, Lord, I'm your child. I know you want me to go through this. I know this is something that you don't want me to go through. And I began to pray and pray and pray. And just like you were saying, Phyllis, we were rooted and grounded in the word from our parents that they instilled in us, that good old word. And my mom always said, if he's just running around, you can't leave. But if he's hitting on you, you need to leave. But I never could tell her that he was hitting on me until one day I just couldn't take it anymore. And when I actually left and filed for divorce and went to court, and my mom, they start reading off medical records. Had a broken jaw, where I had a broken rib, where I had suffered so many different injuries, that she was just, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you've been going through this for 8 years? Yes, for 8 years. Those times where she used to ask me to take my shades home at her house, and because she always would say, no sun shining in here, that I would always have a black eye that I never wanted her to see. Because you know how, when you're actually going through something in your marriage, and if you split up, then you get back together. You know how family and friends are, they turn against the spouse, and then you get back together, and then there's confusion, and everything. So I just stayed hidden and just prayed and prayed and prayed. And once I prayed, and God gave me that lift off my shoulders, that hey, go for it. And what I did, when I tell you, there was so much relief off of me from, when I left the abuse, and another state, it was a relief. So I'm
Okay.
looking at, yeah.
All right. So we gonna move on to this question so we can go through so everybody can have an opportunity to go. So the next question for you guys, and we're gonna take a few minutes for each one. This is mostly for you, Cyndi. And then we'll come back with you, Phyliss. The enemy has a way of condemning beyond return. Did you face condemnation? If so, how did it affect you psychological and sociological with people, and then mental? How did that affect you?
Um, at first I had low self-esteem because, and then people was making me, when they found out that I actually had found out that he was being abusive. Nobody could believe this because he was like a pillar of the community. Like, I can't, he did this, he didn't do that. No, he didn't. Not him. Yes, him.
Yes.
Everyone that looked up to.
Okay, she blanked out for a minute. And so that's one of the things. I am also a survivor of domestic violence. And most of the things we do as women, we want to hide it. And I also know, Phyllis, with your story, is totally different from our, even though it's domestic violence. So the question I would ask for you, women's ages 18 to 24, 34, and 25, 35 generally experience the highest number of intimate partners violence. So my question to you would be, I know your child was a son. How old was your child when all this took place, and how, for your life?
Aramis was 28 years old.
Okay.
Military child. It just got in the industry, and we didn't come from that. I guess the closest thing I can say, I've been through so much therapy, is that growing up, from the looks of things from the outside, things were good. So the closest inclination that I had to domestic violence was mentally abuse from a parent, and just they didn't know. So when this hit, it numbed me. It made me angry. I was angry with the world. I was angry with God. But thank God for a good praying circle, that he kept me in alignment, that I found myself. And I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to stop until I got answers.
Right.
Going back to Cyndi, I want to cry because, we come from the same place, and I know what I know, but I did not know. Cyndi was the pillar of our community. Beautiful, married to, they were the power couple. And that's a prime example. I did not know. And it could be so blinded. And it's been what, Cyndi, 30 years? Damn near. I wouldn't have never known.
Right. And that's the most types of domestic violent cases they're hidden. And Cyndi, with that being said, and I'm going off some of the questions, some of them I'm asking in general. We talk about our faith, with that holds us together, that molds us and create these things. But we're gonna talk to people. We just gonna be transparent here. How do somebody that doesn't have a faith, that doesn't, know it? Because it was moments when I went through it personally, and I knew God, but I didn't have a relationship with God. So it was a difference for me. You can't fake it till you make it. So what would you tell viewers that, some days your faith gonna get weak. Some days you're gonna feel torn. So what do you tell someone that's going through it, that don't know Christ? How would they handle the going through of domestic violence? How would they handle, you didn't do anything to this person, but you hurt, and you like, both of you women, all of us are in a shell. Our feelings, everything is muted because we're going through so much. So how would you tell someone that doesn't have the faith, that doesn't believe the God, that doesn't know these things, what would your advice be to them? I give you 2 minutes, then I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, because both of y'all situations are different. But if you don't have that faith, you coming into it, you don't have a praying family. The family may be gang members. How do you tell someone to hold on when such a tragedy has taken place?
First, I would tell them to seek help. It's okay to seek help. I think with our generation, we think we can't go to a therapist, or it's embarrassing to go to a therapist, or we're crazy if we go to therapist. No, seek help. And if you have to, go to a church. Go tell somebody. Tell somebody, and then that somebody you tell might know somebody that can help you pray and seek God in the situation. But tell somebody. Let somebody know what you're going through. Don't hide all of that in them, because it can actually turn you mentally unstable.
And Phyliss, for you, because it was your child, and I lost a child, but it wasn't to the domestic violence, but I understand the pain of losing a child. How would you tell someone, if you building your faith to continue going on and move forward, when you know that the person that did this to your child is still living? How you could tell somebody to hold on to God when the very things you want to let go of is not pertaining to God, because you're so hurt and devastated? So how do you tell them to just move on?
Like Cyndi said, it's just, her situation is a little bit different. In my situation, I secluded myself, but I found 1 or 2 people that I could hang on to. And by God, it wasn't easy, because that person that came to me, we've been friends for almost 40 years now. Our children are 2 weeks apart. She made me sick, but she was consistent. So what I say to you is just to find one person. You still gotta pray. You gotta pray to somebody. You gotta crawl out. You gotta just get on your knees and call out. And anger is a normal emotion.
Right.
It's what you do with that. In my situation, the person was consistent, and she continued to call and send emojis and got on my nerve, and I argued with her, but she listened. Even my therapist, she's a Christian. She got on my nerve. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear what she had to say, because there was nothing you can tell me. My child has been gunned down, and these people don't want to do anything about it. So
right. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. So, emotionally, you was at a wreck. That's what you're telling us, that emotionally, with everything going on, you was at a total wreck.
Yep. I was at a
total. So when did you find a place in your life that you turned to God, or did you not? I know you turned to your friends. And see, because the thing we got to understand, people, our viewers got to understand, we got to be transparent, because every time we're not going to run to God, especially when we still hold on to some of the world. So we got to let people know that there's times in our life, even now, that, that we are Christians. We don't always seek God first in trying to figure out things, because sometimes emotions override, because, how do you feel about that perpetrator? How, those things over. How do you feel about the person that, they'll slap you in your face? But, how do you, do you, any of you in any time blame God that, Lord, why?
Oh, yeah, I did. I'm going to tell you, I can be truthful with this.
Exactly.
I had a family Bible that I kept, and I've had that Bible for over 20 some years. I was so angry, I threw that Bible away. I threw it away. I threw it in the dumpster. That's how angry I was. But what I did have is I just started calling out to my higher power. I started talking to myself. I got on my knees. I cried, and I cried to the higher power, whoever it was. I cried and I cried. I talked to myself over and over again. I locked myself in my penthouse. I didn't want to go out, but I cried out. And that higher power heard my cries. He heard my cries because he gave me the strength. He gave me the strength that I'm still here today. So
and that's
everything.
the thing that and I'm glad that you're transparent, because a lot of times people go through that hurt. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to hold on at times, because did you ever at your moment, we know that the emotions took over. We know that emotions would take over our thinking, our perception. My question to you, until Cyndi get back on, was, what was the one thing? Okay, you back, Cyndi. Okay, what was the one thing? We talk about forgiveness right now. I'm getting a little bit off the question, but we're talking about forgiveness. And I know, Cyndi, the hardest part of domestic violence, we got to look within ourselves, is that what was that point that we did forgiveness? What was that point? And I know for you, Phyliss, it's probably harder for you to answer, but I'm gonna give each one of you 2 minutes to answer that. What point in the situation, in your darkness moments, and all you're going through, and friends, we'll talk about that in a minute, how friends may have criticized you or been there judgmental. How did you handle your feelings, and that because you in all that process, how do you deal with that and then deal with people at the same time? And we'll go to you, Cyndi.
I don't think I had too many issues with people. Well, yeah, kind of not believing that he actually did with you. But me forgiving, it took a long time to forgive. I actually hated, and I know, I was like, God, you're not a God of hatred. I said, you got to move this out of me. And it took a while. It took a while. I did, it literally took a while, a long time. And now I can honestly.
Okay, Phyliss out again. So, Phyliss, how did you? Cyndi's out again. How did you learn to, especially the person that did that to your child, and that's your child? Nobody can't take that away from you. How did you learn to forgive and move forward with your life in a positive way?
To be totally honest with you, it wasn't until 4 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay.
When we did the trial, I was ready to set the world on fire. Right. But when we did the sentencing, and every day I was there in court, I didn't allow my family to come. There was only selected members that I allowed to come into court with me, because I didn't need the negative energy. I didn't need all of that stuff. I needed to stay focused. But I met family members of his, and just know, hurt people hurt other people.
Right.
And through this entire trial, he had no emotions. He was cocky. He didn't care. At least that's what it perceived on the outside. So it really wasn't until the day of sentencing, and the media was all over me, and my friend said, it's the God in you. It wasn't until then, because I didn't ever think I was going to forgive this person.
Right.
I wanted the death penalty. I fought for the death penalty. I'm very well connected here in Atlanta. I'm just like, no, y'all ain't about to get away with this. It ain't over. But it wasn't until I actually saw myself on TV, and it clicked. It clicked. And I saw him, and he said, when the judge said, do you have anything you want to say to the family? And he said, I'm good.
Wow.
And when he said that, I'm like, he's broken. And I forgive you, because you're so broken, and hurt people hurt other people. So even though he has to spend the rest of his life in jail, I'm going to pray for his soul. And y'all, I'm telling you, me sitting here today and saying that, and anybody that knows me, it took a lot for me to get there.
Right.
It took a lot for me to get there, It took a lot for me to be able to look at this family and just, even though they wanted to talk to me and they were really convinced that he didn't do this, and I'm like, yes, he did. I hired my own investigators just in case. I know for a fact he did this.
Oh
So
gosh, yeah, you're going through a
it
lot.
was the God in me that it come back around, and that I can say, I forgive you. You got to pay the price, but I forgive you because you're so broken.
Right. So, Cyndi, what did you do to find that forgiveness? I know you blanked out on us for a minute, but what do you do to find that?
Um, I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot, and I fast because I know that that wasn't of God. It God is God of love, and I said, Lord, I want to have that love that you have for me. And even though that I went through what I went through with my children, I found that love. So I don't wish no ill will. I pray God will bless in His endures in everything. When we see each other, it's hi, how you doing? So we're at a point now where we can actually talk to each other. And but it's a different story for my son. My sons don't have a relationship with him, and I think that hurts me. The relationship with him. I want them to forgive as well, but they for some reason can't find it in their heart. They forgive him. Um, like my middle son was telling me, and my youngest son was, well, we forgive him, but that doesn't mean we have to give, a part of
Okay.
him. We forgive him. Yeah. So
So,
we
we
don't know.
know that, we go through that forgiveness stage. So where was a moment in your life, and also we'll get back with you, Phyllis, where you thought yourself or your friend had all the answers for you and that get out the situation? Did you have friends? We have friends that we could, they give us
Oh,
advice and they feed into our ears. So where were you with that with your friends? How were they giving you advice to get out?
nobody ever. I never told anybody what I was doing.
And that's the thing that with me, it was a silent thing because I think most of it came from shame and thinking that you married
Yeah.
the most. Um, Phyllis, what are you thinking now? What are you feeling right now?
I'm really just, I'm at so odd with Cyndi because it's like we Cyndi and I were friends, and her husband too, and it's just like up until now, I didn't know they were the Jay-Z and Beyonce. I didn't know. No, I wouldn't have never.
And I know it's hurting you. And see, that's the thing that a lot of time with domestic abuse and violence, we keep to ourselves. I'm so sorry you're crying. I feel for you because we normally that's what we do. As a victim, you hide. You hide the bruises, you hide the pain, and you try to make everybody think your life is like that peachy king when it's torn apart. So that's why we have to be transparent our feeling, but you have to wonder what doesn't make us hide that from the public, because we want afterwards get into groups and we want to share our story. But what was the one thing, Cyndi, that made you want to hide it from the public?
Because of who he was in the community. I didn't want anybody to have any ill will on him or think bad of him. Um, I just didn't. Like you said, I put on this facade like we were the happiest couple. We were doing great things together, but all the time, the abuse existed, the infidelity existed, even in the marriage. He has three outside children that was generated in the marriage. It was, yeah, but I still remain.
So
And Cyndi, I mean, Phyllis, I'm looking at you, and I know you're so hurt. But what are you thinking? Because if we, as domestic violence survivors, That's some of the reasons why we hide it, because we don't want, first of all, for as me, I didn't want my family to know what I was going through, because they respected your partner, they respected that person in your life. And then for you to tell them that all these dark shadows that they hide behind and fences, because when they're with your family, they're that perfect person. We can acknowledge that. But then when you know all those dark things happening when you get home. So what are you feeling right now, Phyliss, about what's going on with your friend? You just not here years later after she already survived, and it's still painful for you. I can see.
I mean, when you looked at Cyndi and this person, as I said, they were the Beyonce and Jay-Z. Everybody envied them. I can remember Cyndi when he bought you the BMW for your birthday. It's like, damn, I can't get a man like this. And I was close to him too. He's actually a part of my family. But I wouldn't have never, oh my God, I'm just so convicted, because I guess it just goes back. You can never judge a book by its cover. And Cyndi, you played that role.
Yes.
You know, I did not know until now. And I'm just so sorry, that I did not know. And I can remember them when I got married. They shut down the whole, we had our anniversary, we had our wedding party at their club, and they shut it down for us, Clayton and I. And, Cyndi was that person. She was that girl. She had the personality. She had the looks, the style, and all. And it just, I didn't know. I had no idea. And you wouldn't look at him because of who they are, But right. I get it, because I know who they are. Right. For real, I know who they are. But and the thing about it, I think he really, really loved her. She was that girl. And I'm just sorry that I didn't know, and I couldn't be my sister's keeper. And it just, I'm gonna just take 1 second to say this, because it gets deep. What that brings out to me is that I'm an only child. And when people look at my mom and my dad and me having the materialistic things, mental abuse and domestic violence, it starts within the home. And I can understand that, because I caught it from my mom. And I love her dearly. But I still hadn't got to the root of why, I was that person, and, being her only child, things happened the way that it did. Great mother, I love her, but hurt people hurt other people.
Exactly.
So we get to a point that where this here, losing Aramis, guys, can't be too many people that can get close to me. And I'm gonna hold your ass accountable.
And see, that's what the next question was. What are some of if you ever give someone advice that lost a child through violence, or lost we know we lose our spiritual being and the thing about who we are in the process of that. Sometimes we drift in the background. So each one of y'all are different and unique, and I'm glad I'm here today to answer that. So if you begin to heal, what were some of the things that helped you to heal from that, Phyliss? Because I know the loss of a child is very traumatic, and it's one of those things that nobody can tell you unless they don't walk down that road. Nobody can walk down that road and tell you if your child life is different. If you lost yours through violence, I lost mine through sickness. So it's that's still a whole different dynamic as to losing a child. So I'm gonna give you to explain to us, what did you do, how you heal? Did Cyndi? I'm gonna come back to you, because honestly, the thing that got me, and I'm interested because I lost a child and I also was abused. So both of y'all are right in my life. Y'all don't intertwine with me. So it's one of those things that you could tell me, did I go through the same process? Because we all process things differently. And I didn't have a perpetrator as you did, Phyliss. So how do you go through the process of healing? What did you do? Tell us, so someone that's listening or listening later on can process that part of healing. What did you have to end up doing?
So what I have done is I've started a foundation. My grandson, his nickname to me was Juicy, and his name is Aiden. Aiden is the young man, my grandson, that was in the car that witnessed his father's death. So I've started a nonprofit that's called Juicy Foundation, and it stands for, it's an acronym for Justice for Us Innocent Youths. So I am there for anybody. We've set up Bishop White. He is our spiritual counselor, go-to on the board with Juicy Foundation. I'm just starting it up. And just I'm living my life through that, to be able to help people and just to be there for them that is going through or has gone through the things that I've gone through. I'm a different breed. You know what I'm saying? I've been through a lot, and I'm a fighter. Anybody that know me, Cyndi, I'm gonna fight you. I might lose a couple battles, but I'm coming back. So I just want to be there in the gap for those parents that just give up, and the system just let them just say, oh, well, it's another black on black crime. So I'm living my life through that. I still get therapy, but on the level that I'm getting my therapy, I'm beyond that therapist, because there's nothing else that they can tell me. They haven't gone through what I'm going through. They can't tell me about my emotions, but I'm in a space of healing and just bringing our Black communities back, holding accountability, and just loving on each other. If you see something out the norm, do what the Carla Scott's doing. That girl got on my nerve, but she consistently called or text. We got to fill in that gap. Even when we don't like them, we got to love on them. We got to continue to love on them, because hurt people hurt other people, and that's just how they go. We gotta be more conscientious and looking around us. What is it that I can do? We got to take the spirit of jealousy and hate out of our soul and just love on each other. Just love on each other.
That's awesome. So, Cyndi, what is your coping skills as you went through that process of healing?
I honestly, I just started healing. I never went to any counseling or anything. About maybe, about 3 years ago, I didn't know I was still broken. I didn't know I was still hurt.
Wow.
And to my husband now, we were discussing something, and I think I had gotten a little bit loud with him. And and then so one day he was like, let's go out to dinner. So I said, okay. So I get dressed and we go out to dinner, and we pull up in this building. We pull up to this building, and it just had on it. I said, what's in here? He's like, come on. So he took me in. There was a therapist there. He was like, I think it makes look at there.
I'm gonna give you a short. I know that what you're saying with your husband, you love for us. So you want to speak up a little bit louder, because we can't hardly hear you.
Okay. We went to that. He took me to a therapist. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. And I sitting on her couch and just talking to her, just telling her my story and everything, and it helped. So now I go, and now I'm beginning to process to heal.
A lot of times as Black people, and I'm putting this out there, we fear counselors. I don't know why we fear get psychiatric help. We fear, and those are the things that I went through counseling for 2 years. after I got abused. Because one thing you didn't want no one to look at you a different way. And we don't like to tell nobody we got to lay on someone else's couch and listen to our problems. And we think that our race is so strong that we can fight these battles alone. And my thing is, when I tell anybody, sometimes with what you're going through, have any one of you just blame God. Like, Lord, if you had done this, why did this happen to me? If you love me, why would this happen? If you care for me, why did you take my child? I mean, if you did this, why you let a husband, a spouse, or anybody just beat me? Hey, y'all came to that point where you actually, before you start turning to God, you turned away from God a minute to the heal. I mean, then you came back to that place with God. Did any of you just blame God for what you was going through?
Yes, I did. I was. Let me just share this. I've lost another son. It was in a car accident 21 years ago, and then I lost my husband 10 years ago from a massive heart attack. Healthy, good looking, just one day up here and gone. So I was very, very angry with God, and I did not understand what God would do this. I don't know nothing about him, and I don't want to be a part of him. So I was very, very angry. The night that I got the call that my son had been shot, I was in church.
Wow.
I was in church. So I'm like, oh, hell no. I don't know what God is this, but he can't be for me. I was very angry with God. So I guess until maybe a year ago, I got back in tune with him, and we're friends now.
You see your friend. And that's something that as viewers and listeners, I want to understand that always, Phyliss, we don't always just like, okay, this happened to me and I'm going to turn to God, because of some of the very things that we go through, especially domestic violence and losing a child, we actually turn away from God. And it's some things that transpire in our lives that make us focus back on God. There's people, there's support groups, and and there's very few things that we want to know. If Cyndi, you making a test, we don't want to hear, it's going to be okay. You didn't want to hear that I understand, because you think you in a place pretty much by yourself. And then all these other people coming at you. And a lot of times, and you might say, Cyndi, they want to be nosy instead of helpful. If y'all had that, they want to be nosy. Like,
I've gone through, I think I went through like 13 counselors, and I cussed every last one of them out. I was like, you can't tell me shit. You ain't lost no child. Don't go on with that. I don't want to hear you. It got to the point where my insurance company was like, what in the world? Listen, unless you've been through what I've been through. I mean, they got tired of me. The counselors got scared of me. They wouldn't even answer the phone. I was out of my mind,
Yes.
But
Cyndi, what did you do? How did you, when you felt like, we know that we all Black, I mean, we have faced faithfully, but how do you do when that faith is so thin? How do you do when that faith is so, it's not there yet? You're so broken. How do you put those pieces back together again and move forward?
Minister Felder, honestly, my faith just got big last year. I had faith, but I also had doubt. So you can't, it's either one or the other.
Right.
So I had faith, but it seems like the faith that I had wasn't, things would flip flop for me.
Right.
So therefore it was like a spiritual warfare that was going on in the mind. So it was, so I didn't really have the faith. But now, as of not last year, before last, my faith is so big. I can tell you, hey, move that building over there, and it will move. That's my faith now.
So we get ready. We got a few minutes left, ladies. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You can finish. I'm sorry. Cyndi, you froze again. Okay, Phyliss, we got a few more minutes, and what I want you to do is, in the last minutes that we have, if you had the moment to encourage someone that's in find themselves in the same situation as you. And I'm gonna tell you, you're one of my biggest fans. As of today, and I'm good, awesome meeting you and getting a chance to talk to you and let you speak out on what you're dealing with, because we know that losing a child is a very traumatic thing, and then to lose your child through violence. And as we know, like October is domestic violence awareness month, which we need that awareness every month. We can just be honest about that. What would you give someone that's listening, that's just not finding themselves in a place where you were and still is?
I would give them the advice that do not apologize for your feelings. Get to know yourself. Don't allow nobody to tell you what you're feeling is wrong. Everybody's battle is different. Everybody's walk is different. Stay in tune with your feelings and be true to yourself and be true to your feelings. Embrace those feelings. It's okay. And don't let nobody tell you it's wrong. For you to be mad at God, for you to be mad at that person, for you to be mad at the world. It's okay. You have every right to do that. And when you get in tune with that, it's another level.
Right.
Until you get in tune with that, and you're trying to accept what someone else is telling you, no, you're masking that. You're covering it. Just be yourself. Get in tune with all of those emotions. Let them get out. You're going to love some, you're going to lose some going to hate you, you're going to run them off. But just peace, be still, and get to know yourself. There are going to be some people that you've known for most of your life, and you're going to have to block them out and just leave that space for you and for you to get in tune with what your feelings are, and that you have every right to feel what you're feeling. Until you can get to that point, you can't get to the next level. Even through counseling, they can mask it and tell you got to forgive. They're not in a position to tell you that. Even if they've gone through what you're going through, you are still your own individual. Go through your process and talk to yourself and meditate and just pray to the higher power, whether who you believe in. And it's all going to come to a full circle. Because that's how I'm standing here today, to be able to tell this story. I never thought that I would be able to say, you know something, I can't get my son back. And he was killed in a horrible way. Every bullet that this young man shot went into his back. And to see him laying there and he bled out. That's a hard thought. And for me to be able to sit here and say, you know something, I'm going to forgive you because you're so broken. And that's going to take time and it's going to take space. But the most important thing is what you need to do is come in tune with you and yourself and find you and take the time out for you. And everything that's surrounding you, if it does not serve a purpose, let it go. You have to have a purpose, because people will attach itself to you and they don't have a purpose. They're expecting you to fall because you've always been up. If that person doesn't serve a purpose in your life, let it go. Let the negative energy go and watch your surroundings, because you're prone to gravitate to energy that you think that you want, or somebody's there to be your friend. Peace, be still. That's what I say.
Oh, awesome. And what about you, Cyndi, as we wrap this up? What will you
What was the
say
question?
to someone that's going through, and strengthen them as they walk through this thing we call domestic violence, as they go through their life?
As they go, it's going to be always heard the saying that physical abuse is mental abuse, the verbal abuse, because the verbal, it stays with you in your mind, and the physical will pass away, but abuse is abuse. So you're going to have to seek counseling. You're going to have that positive feed from people to encourage you to put that stuff behind you that is in your past. But it's easy for us to say, but it's hard. It's really hard because sometimes I with some of the aspects of things that I went through in the past. But when it does come up, I've learned how to pray. I've learned how to bind up the enemy from my mind. I've learned how to speak peace. I've learned how to speak joy to my mind and to my soul. And that's what we were going to have to learn how to do is just seek God whatever it is that we want, and He will give it to us. And also, I want to say to the parents that have daughters and sons, love on your children so they won't go out and find that love from somebody else that's going to beat them, that's going to abuse them, and they're looking at that because, well, okay, he went and bought me this. Okay, he went and bought me this. He does this for me. He loves me. Let's show our children love in the home so they won't have to go out search for love somewhere else and find themselves in an abusive situation. And it could even turn up to be a situation where they may find themselves dead. So let's, the word of God said, let's pray one for another. And there is no distant prayer. So if we all just come together and pray for our children and agree that God will cover and protect them, that they will be safe. So God said, well, one or two are gathered in His name, that He is in the midst. And if we can just pray for our children that they don't encounter this stuff of trying to find love, and that they can find love from home instead of.
Awesome. I have truly been blessed by each one of you, and I'm glad that y'all took the time out of y'all day just to come on and share your story so that someone else can grow from it. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what the rest of the day holds. But we do know through you guys speaking out about different things with domestic violence and a different story altogether, we know that we can hold on to God's unchanging hand. We know that it's not always going to be easy, but we know it's doable. We know that God is always going to be forever present in our lives. I want to thank you, ladies, so very much for being here and sharing your story, because sometimes we have even to today, a lot of people are still hiding that behind that wall and not speaking out for the sake of whatever reason. A lot of times we don't know their reasons, but for you to be open and transparent today, hopefully that it'll reach someone. So if they're going through anything that we have gone through or going through, that they will reach out for help. Again, we want to thank Pastor White for opening up his platform so that we can be a part of domestic violence. And as he doing his thing and his much needed break, we still want to be able to, pray for him and tie into a ministry helping all of us to grow. And so that's one of the biggest things as well. So ladies, I appreciate y'all today. Y'all was awesome. Y'all forever in my prayers. Phyliss, I cry for you. I give you that virtual hug for both of y'all, because we all went through something differently, but we all in the same place. And I just want to cover you guys spiritually. I love you guys. And I got to give a shout out to Pastor White for having us on. And I thought it was robbery that we was here today, discuss these things. I love you guys. Until the next time that we have a talk. I love you guys, and I was constantly pray. And Phyliss, I give you a hug again. Cyndi, I'm giving you that virtual hug. I thank y'all for being open enough to share y'all stories that someone else can heal from that. Blessed to the rest of y'all day. I love you guys, and be blessed as always. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.